Hey y'all, welcome back to Krista's Kitchen. So we had a request for some broccoli and cheese soup with chicken from Summer. She wants to try and make it for her husband. Apparently it's his favorite recipe, and I don't have a recipe for broccoli and cheese soup or even chicken broccoli and cheese soup. So thinking about the basics of it, we're going to give it a try today. We're going to try and build it. I'm going to measure out everything as we go and just kind of work through the times and the temperatures and see what works, what doesn't, and build that flavor profile. I am going to use a Sam's Club rotisserie chicken to cut the time and the effort, but it shouldn't be too long. I mean, really the prep work takes more of the time, but we're going to build it and see what we need a little more of, what we need a little less of. So I'm going to bring y'all into the stove and we'll get going through this process together. It will be a little bit loud. I'm going to see if I can talk y'all through this. If not, I'll let y'all continue to do the video and I'll put the measurements on the screen. But between my exhaust and the AC, it's quite loud over here. So if it's too loud, like I said, I'll just play y'all some music and I'll put the measurements as I add them in. Now remember, the first measurements going in may not always be what we stick at, but we're going to do about 2 tablespoons of butter. We're going to melt down in the bottom of the pan and just go ahead and let that melt just a little bit. We're going to add in some onion. About a cup of chopped onion, which is equal to about 1 medium onion. We're going to let this soften down. And I do have it on a higher heat just to get the pan hot, but I'll turn it down to a medium heat in a few minutes. Okay, I'm going to add in about a teaspoon's worth of minced garlic and let that cook for just a second. So I changed my mind about the 2 tablespoons of butter. I'm just going to add the whole stick, which is about ½ a cup. I'm wanting a little bit more liquid down in the bottom of this so I can make my roux than I have right now. Now this is salted butter, so if you're using unsalted butter, when we get to the seasoning part of this, take that into consideration, that you may need a little bit less salt or a little bit more salt than what I may add. Right now we're still building the base of this, but at this point we have ½ a cup of butter or a full stick, whichever one you're measuring in. So we're just going to let that melt, and then I'm going to add in a little bit of flour at a time because I want to make a little roux. We're making in a small batch so that we can test this out. I don't like making large batch practices. I just don't like to waste a lot of food. So I'm starting with about ¼ a cup of flour. I'm going to dump that in. I'm going to save this in case we need to thicken it up. And we want this to combine with the flour and make a little roux in the bottom of our pan. And I want it to get just a little bit of color because that tells me it's cooked off the flour taste, but not get too dark like what we would make for a gumbo. The color's starting to look good, so we know that we're getting that flour smell out. I'm turning the heat down just a little bit. And next I'm going to add in 2 cups of vegetable broth. You can use chicken broth. You can use really whatever you have. I use my vegetable base. That's why I'm sloshing it a little bit to try and get the rest of those flavors off the bottom. But I use my vegetable base and reconstituted it. So I really want all those flavor bits. But this is equivalent to vegetable stock or vegetable broth. Didn't quite get all of it, but when we add the half and half, I'll pour it through here and pick up those flavor bits. We may have to add more liquid. We'll see. We will see. Again, we're playing with it. I'm going to see where we go. So while this is doing its thing, I'm going to toss in the carrots and some broccoli, so that we know exactly how to repeat this if this is good. Let's do about a cup of shredded carrots. There we go. And sprinkle those in. And since they're shredded, they'll cook pretty quickly. And we really just want them to soften. We're going to simmer this all together in a little bit once we get everything in there. So I also picked up 2 small crowns of broccoli while I was at the grocery store. So I'm going to measure out a couple of cups of this. And I use stem and all. So we got 1. I'm going to start with about 3. I want some of those stem pieces in there. Make it creamy. We're going to start with about 3 cups. And see if that's broccoli enough for us. But I want them to start softening down in the bottom of this. Now I'm not adding my cream or my cheese or anything like that, just because those things, if you mess with the heat of it too much, they will break and like get kind of grainy. So I'm trying to minimize that as much as possible since we're playing with this recipe and we don't know how much we'll have to add of what. But let's see. I'm going to add just a little bit more water. So I've got a 1/2 cup of water. I'm going to add that in. There we go. I'm going to put the lid on this and let this simmer for about 10 minutes. I'll keep stirring it, but I want those veggies to soften up some. And I'll check them in about 10 minutes to see how they're doing. Okay, y'all, so I forgot that I was going to make some stuffed biscuits to go with this tonight. So we're going to get that started while this is going. They're super simple. We usually call them stuffed biscuits or stuffed rolls, whichever one you prefer. Let's see, I was trying to melt my butter really fast. When you try to do anything quickly, it doesn't happen. But we are going to, I've got a couple tablespoons of butter and a tablespoon of minced garlic down in the bottom in this bowl, and I'm melting it. We're going to use that to brush on our biscuits. But while that's going, heat your oven to 350, and you can get a pie dish, a cast iron, really whatever you have, and go ahead and pull that out. If you have a cast iron and want to preheat it in your oven, that will work even better. So I have a small can of the like flaky layer biscuits, and we're just going to take each biscuit and pull it in half. Let's see, I'm going to pull out a little butter knife, and we're going to put just a few cubes of little cheese down in each one. As soon as our butter is melted, we're going to brush that on them as well. I'm using the small can of biscuits just because there's not very many of us, so I don't need the whole can. But if you do need the whole can, use the whole can. But this will make 10 rolls for us because there's 5 biscuits in each one. Alright, let me see if my butter is ready. Not quite. We're going to see if we can work with it. So, like I said, I've got a couple tablespoons of butter, and a tablespoon of minced garlic, and I'm just going to add in about a tablespoon of Italian seasoning. Let's see if I can mix this all around. There we go. So this is half of our biscuit. We're just going to take it and use the back of the spoon. Usually I'd be using a little pastry brush, but brush a little bit of the seasoning on 2 of my little cubes and kind of fold it around it. And try and pinch those closed as much as we can. There we go. Now we want these sitting pretty closely, so whenever they cook, they'll rise up instead of out. They'll be fluffier. So just the same way you would put biscuits in for making regular biscuits. Alright y'all, so that's the last one. We're going to take the rest of this butter and slather it over the top of these and sprinkle it with quite a bit of cheese. Now this will melt and run down into the bottom of it, so I'm not worried about like one biscuit having way more than the rest. This will kind of run down into the bottom of the pan. Now I used the medium cheddar for the inside, and this is some Colby Jack, but really you could use whatever type of cheese you like. A mozzarella would make it nice and stringy, so you'll get that cheesy effect that you really like. Alright, so this is going to go in the oven at 350 for about 20 minutes. Okay, so our veggies are softened, and that was about 12 minutes. Now they're not fully softened, but they're very much softened enough that we can add in the creamier elements and start seasoning. So I've got it on low. I'm going to add in about 2 cups of Sam's rotisserie chicken and just shred it up. I'm going to measure this all out. That way if we want to repeat it, we can. Let's do about half a teaspoon of paprika, a teaspoon of salt, about half a teaspoon of pepper. So 2 cups of half and half. This is going to add the creaminess to it because right now it's just kind of a little roux with some veggies. Alright, and I'm adding in 2 cups of sharp cheese. And this is 1 small block of sharp cheese if you're using the block. Sharp usually gives more of a cheesy flavor with using less cheese, so that's why I like it for things like this. But really you could probably use any kind of cheddar. The reason I waited to add it until I added the cream is I want it to be able to melt a little bit better, hopefully. That's the goal. Okay, so let's see. I'm okay if the broccoli is not cooked all the way because we're going to let it simmer for a little bit. But oh, that's good. Let's see. I'm going to see if my cheese is all the way melted because it doesn't taste cheesy enough to me. I don't want it to be like cheese soup, but oh yeah, there's some of it. So let's get that mixed around a little bit better. So depending on your consistency preference, this is kind of thick. You could add some more vegetable stock to it, some water, anything like that. I think we need just a little bit more salt. And y'all, that was simple. I love it. And now I can say I have a broccoli and cheese soup recipe. And this has chicken in it too, so even better. Now I know I cheated with the Sam's Club rotisserie chicken, but 9 times out of 10 you're going to see that's what I'm going to do. I mean, $5 for a whole rotisserie chicken, you can't beat that. So this is done. I'm going to leave it on low, put the lid on it, and keep stirring it while our stuffed biscuits cook. But, y'all, I'm stinking excited about that. In summer, I hope that you and John both love it, and you don't have to tell him that you got it from us. Just tell him, like, hey, babe, made you a soup I've been slaving over all day instead of the last 20 minutes. This stuff is so stinking good. And our rolls, now they're going to be so hot. Let them sit for at least like 5 minutes after they come out of the oven. They literally just come out of the oven. But I got to go get the kids soon. So, let's see if I can do this without burning myself. When you pull them out, they're going to be so cheesy. Ooh. Okay, so y'all get the point. But once these cool down just a little bit, they are going to be so yummy and delicious and cheesy and buttery. And not good for you at all, but so yummy. This is a comfort meal if you ever had one. So summer, I hope y'all enjoy it. Thank you for asking for it, because it's hot as Hades out there, but this is awesome and it's so worth the heat. And when it gets cold, I'll have a recipe automatically to go to, and it was so simple. So thank y'all for joining us. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Here's a link to another one of our videos if you want to give it a look and see if this is the channel for you. But we'll see y'all next time. Bye.